Okay, we have no quorum, so we can't vote on anything, but we can discuss whatever we'd like to discuss. So if our eighth member for the quorum comes, eighth voting member for the quorum comes, we will do that. Otherwise, we will just continue discussing what we have to discuss here. We don't have to vote on anything yet. Before we go any further, I'd like to welcome Tracy from the Cemetery Subcommittee and also Alan from the 2020 Committee. And the rest of us are all familiar with each other here. We all know who we are. Memorial Day Parade. Let's go through a post-mortem on the parade itself. That was Memorial Day Parade or Memorial Day Procession. And we'll start with the Memorial Day, the Vice Chairman, who is the Chairman of the Memorial Day Parade. What do you need, hon? Yeah, we have a quorum. Come on up. We have a quorum. We can vote.
A quorum and then some.
If we need to. And we welcome Lucy Berry from the Veterans Sign Committee. Now we have representatives from all of our subcommittees. And also Sue Ann Shore, our treasurer.
Howdy.
Okay? What do you need, Karen?
I need minutes accepted.
Okay, well, let's do that first then. Okay, now that we can take a vote, we can take a look at the minutes for the last meeting. And
Thank you.
you can, is there more than one? Yeah, okay. The minutes for the last meeting, and take a quick look through if there's any deletions, additions, or corrections, whatever. I'd like to pay special attention to the last paragraph before the motion to conclude. It says, Commissioners drafts a volunteer and contact Terry about help at the parade line. People did, thank you very much. And also the part that says, again, no pets in the parade, no candy or items thrown by any marchers. Division leaders are needed to keep the line of march moving forward. The key line there is, again, no pets in a parade and no candy or items thrown by any marchers. We'll talk about that in a moment. Need a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
Jim Long has done that. A second? Raleigh?
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, the minutes are accepted. Memorial Day Parade, let's talk about it, Terry.
Okay, well, I think it went very well. We had approximately 1,200 people marching, which I think was larger than previous years. I was surprised that even though we had 3 gaps in the parade itself of a minute or longer between groups, the entire parade itself actually finished in just under 1 hour. And
Let's slide over here.
so we now have a sense of, because the parade was broadcast live, and thank you to the Darien Athletic Foundation for
Right.
arranging it, we were able to see exactly how long the parade took. And it was 1 hour from step off
That's
at
perfect.
Good Wives until everybody was ready to assemble at the cemetery. So that leads me to think that, based on feedback we received from spectators, wouldn't it be nice if we had additional bands? And that's a story for us to get into at another date. In addition, there was conversation about, wouldn't it be nice to have a band on the dais in between the end of the parade and the beginning of the ceremony? Again, that's something Dave and I have discussed, and we can get into details later for next year. I think that and thank you for sending me the link for the taping, and thank you, Channel 79,
Oh,
for
yeah, that
the
was great.
taping
Yes, that was
That was
of
awesome.
the
I
tour of
loved
the
it.
cemetery.
I shouldn't say it because I was like the guy featured there and all that, but I liked it anyway.
We had,
You were terrific.
you know, we had our usual logistical challenges, nothing out of the ordinary, the same kind of challenges we have with people who, I'll say it as politely as I can, have trouble with English as a first language.
Right.
So We're always going to have a handful of people who will make the morning more interesting than it ought to be. But otherwise, I think it all went off pretty nicely.
Anybody have any other comments on the Memorial Day Parade before I make mine?
Oh, I just have, do you feel the watchers have increased or decreased, or they're the same, you know what I mean?
I think
Yeah.
that it was pretty much the same, but there were fewer people where the TV camera was set up. So
Yeah.
even though they were saying there's a big crowd, if you were watching it on TV,
Yeah.
you
Didn't
wouldn't
look-
think so.
Yeah.
So I think that we should make some effort to publicize to the people that wouldn't it be nice if you're watching the parade, please watch it where the TV camera. You might be able to wave at your friends,
There you go.
but more importantly for the people who are not at the parade, who actually see that it really is very well attended by town residents.
Yeah.
That was my one observation. Thank you for reminding me about that. Yeah.
It seemed more crowded downtown in the
Oh,
downtown.
downtown.
Oh,
area.
yes.
It was
Yeah.
packed.
I hadn't seen it really from the good view vantage point that I had from driving along in a Packard, you know. But I
Right.
was looking around, I was like overwhelmed. They were packed 6, 7, 8 deep in
Right.
some places.
I loved it.
Yeah.
That was
They were
fantastic.
really-
You know, just to touch on one thing, just real quickly about the reviewing stand, this has come up before. We had the reviewing stand at the end of the parade so that the Grand Marshal can be seen by everybody and then get off at the end of the parade with the town officials and stuff. Now, this year, when the Grand Marshal got off, the town officials continued for another 150 feet and then turned around and came back. You just sort of can't do that if you put the reviewing stand in the middle of the parade. Well, the
Right.
middle of the parade is where all the action's happening, because that's where all the people are, so I get that. So it's sort of a dilemma, and I don't really know what to do with that. It's not like you're gonna be able to go to the end and then run the Grand Marshal back, especially in a situation like this year. So it does present somewhat of a problem. However, the TV location,
Could be anywhere.
maybe that could be,
No,
maybe that.
no,
it can't?
the
Okay.
TV is where it is because they're able to establish a hyperlink between the
Okay.
library and their equipment so that
Thank
it
you.
can be
Got it.
broadcast live.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a couple of things that we won't have any power over. The other
Yeah.
thing I'd like to mention, if nobody else has anything else to mention, but, and I will address this because I think it needs to be addressed. Terry sent out on a couple of occasions instructions for what you're to do in the parade and how you're to act in the parade. This is a procession, it's not a July 4th parade, it's not a circus. So basically, one of the rules we have is that we don't want you to distribute anything from the line of march. So if anybody out there who has their children or their adults in the parade is listening, and I hope you are, the reason is that's there for a liability issue. We don't want people running out to a truck or running out to a car or running into the street to pick up anything. I don't care what it is, whether it's edible or it's a t-shirt or it's a frisbee or whatever it happens to be, because this causes a liability problem for the town. And we haven't had any things like that, any problems happen here, but they've had them happen in other places. So I just want to emphasize that that's the reason why that rule is in place. You know, July 4th parade, push-pull parade, things of that nature and stuff is a little more loosely constructed in some places, one here anyway. And even there, it's a liability issue. So what we try to do with our Memorial Day parade is we try to limit our liability as much as possible. And that's the only reason we put those rules there. We're not here to make it a somber, you know, it's supposed to be somber, serious anyway, but we're not here to put a damper on everything else. But there's a reason for it. We don't want, and we had incidents that were related to me by citizens who told me that there were situations in which there were kids running out and people running out into the street, to the point where eventually some gentleman from the crowd came out and took something away from a group. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter. But just be aware of it, we're aware of it, and the solution to that, of course, is to ban groups that do that, and it's on film from future parades. And we haven't gotten to that point yet, but we could. Is there anything else on a Memorial Day parade? Because I personally felt that it was one of the best ones I've ever seen, if not the best ones. Okay, and the organization of it from Terry's, you know, that Terry did was outstanding, and I really have to give a hand to Terry. Because I'd be sitting at home thinking of things to do, and I'd email Terry, and he'd say, done, it's already been done, okay? And so I'm like, okay, very good, and so I'm very, very happy with it. The other thing you really have to thank is the Parks and Rec for getting in their platform in place and the reviewing stand in place. They do it like clockwork every year, so thank you very much, Pam Geary and the Parks and Rec. And also to all the police officers that worked with us and did such a wonderful job controlling the traffic and controlling the crowds and controlling the people. Another thing that I just have to mention, where I was riding behind the police honor guard. I want to tell you something. I've marched in a lot of parades in my life. I was in a lot of bands and drum and bugle corps and all this stuff and everything else. I have never seen a group of 5 walk down the street the way they did and keep their cadence and keep their line of march. It was like outstanding. And then they came out from the police department and stood at attention for our entire ceremony in the cemetery. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank
That
you
was
very much.
very
Thank you
impressive.
very much for being our police officers in this town. It's my thing. I'm going to jump on now to the Memorial Day ceremony. I want to thank everybody who came out early in the morning and helped us put the bunting around. That's one of the things we have to do every Memorial Day. The task we had the day before is to put the signs out, and I want to thank those people that came out and put the numbers out in the parking lot. And it's something you get used to every year. You know, you got to budget some time for it. It only takes us about 45 minutes, so when we have 4 or 5 people there, we're in good shape. So that was very nice also. And the only thing is that at the end of the Memorial Day ceremony, you have all this stuff that's out already. Now it's got to get taken down. All right, which was not a big deal. I went to my party, I came back, and Karen and I cut down all the bunting and picked it all up and brought it and got it all out of there. But we do have to have like a cleanup.
We brought the chair to your house.
I think I'm gonna recommend for next year when we start to talk about this, a cleanup crew for the Good Wives.
Yes.
And a cleanup crew for the cemetery.
It was done.
I know, it was done, but I think you need
Well, you
more than
did
one
it.
guy doing it.
It didn't take long.
I know, and
Seriously,
it didn't take long for
take
Karen
long
and
at
I
all.
to do what we had to do either, but it's just the idea that, know that that's gotta be done, it doesn't
Terry-
just happen.
Terry
You
left
know?
plenty of coffee, so I had a lot of.
A lot of energy.
And I'd like to give a special thanks to, and I know Terry has thanked people individually, but a special thanks to Erstad Biddle for allowing us to use the Good Wives Shopping Center every year, because it's no small task to have to, give up some parking and everything else, and all the merchants that are in the Good Wives Shopping Center, and actually all the merchants in town and everything else for their spirit in helping us with the Memorial Day Parade. I want to thank them all. So the Memorial Day ceremony, I thought it went great. I want to tell you something. I was ecstatic that we had Pat Parlett as our Grand Marshal, and she was just a wonderful, wonderful Grand Marshal. It was so sweet walking with her, driving with her down the street and hearing her comments and stuff. And I want to tell you something. She was truly overwhelmed, and truly impressed, and truly thrilled that she was able to do this for us, and I was thrilled to have her. This is a thank you from Pat. I'm not going to read it out here, but I will read it. How privileged we are to gather in prayerful gratitude for those who died for our freedom. I remain overwhelmed by the honor bestowed to me as Grand Marshal 2019 of the Darien Memorial Day Parade. My heartfelt thanks to all. God bless Pat Parlett. She sent us this thank you afterwards, and it's just, she's just a sweetheart. She just really is a town treasure, and I was thrilled to have her, as our Grand Marshal. And thank you, Terry, for the suggestion back in the day. We had like minds think alike. We were all thinking about it. So, is there anything else on the Memorial Day ceremony that anybody
Yes.
wants to mention? Yes, sir.
I heard, aside from my own enjoyment, I can't tell you how many people told me how wonderful Chris Andrade and the Tudor Singers
Oh my
were.
gosh, they were
Yes,
great.
they
And
They were fabulous.
I sent him an email and
Yeah.
thanked him. I said that they are outstanding. I run out of superlatives to use with them after they finish a song. Well, sometimes it's just, they're amazing. They just are so great. And good, that's our youth at work. I love it. And also the young person who was from the Darien High School band who played taps for us. Okay, and I appreciated that, and it was really wonderful.
So we have 11 months to work on it, but I think one of our tasks next year is to get more pre-publicity out about the ceremony
Right.
in the cemetery, because again, it is, I
What it's
guess,
all about.
understandable, but Lucy has gone through this with the school about the number of people who confuse Veterans Day with Memorial Day.
Right.
And there were 2 signs in the parade that said, "We thank our veterans,"
Yeah.
which is a
Nice
nice
thought,
sentiment,
yes.
and I hope they bring those signs out to our Veterans Day cemetery on November 11th, not the last Monday of May.
Right.
So I think we want to work harder on that it is a memorial celebration, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's a memorial.
Commemoration, yeah.
And the ceremony at the cemetery, I always like to say that to me, Memorial Day is to the secular world what Easter Sunday is to the Christian world. There is not a more sacrosanct day in my secular calendar, and I think we need to get that word out more to the public.
I agree with you.
But I think having the food fair directly afterwards
It's
takes
tough.
away
Yeah.
attendance.
Yeah.
I especially liked your little lecture about the Veterans Cemetery and all the different types of people that are there, and the fact that we have the first one in the state was amazing. So, and you know, you involved the children. That was really good. It's the first time I'd heard that talk, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
That's that, you know, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, that cemetery has not one, but like hundreds of stories, okay? And it is so great. I mean, there are women buried there we have I was looking through the records and I found a nurse who served in World War I. Okay,
Correct.
she's buried there. And it's like, I mean, the length and breadth of who's buried there is just incredible. I mean, it's a really historic cemetery. So, you know, who knows? Someday we'll develop maybe we'll develop a whole program on that. Maybe Terry will be giving it at the Darien Historical Society as a talk. I'm serious.
I do think it's a really good idea.
I think that might be something that you could that would definitely sell. Let me
And
tell you.
among the people buried there, and Sue Ann, pay attention to this,
Okay.
there are 6 couples buried there, because the spouse of a service personnel is also eligible to be buried there. Among the 6 that are buried there is one couple where they both served, and like somebody else I know, the female outranked the male.
All right.
So precedent has been set.
Yes, all right.
Pretty neat.
I don't,
Working on that.
I'm sorry, I don't know if it would help to have and not necessarily, I mean, it would be up to the discretion of you and everyone in the group, what kind of personal stories would be told on something like this, but something like a town Twitter or Instagram feed that just shows, like afterwards, I did take pictures of the parade and I hashtagged them and I added them and I actually got a lot of response on my personal
Right.
Instagram feed, you know, like I didn't, and again, you know, like while it would be up to you know, everyone to decide, you know, how discreet you wanted to be in names or history, because I think a lot of people follow that, and I have friends that actually travel all around Connecticut to look at cemeteries and to learn stories, and I have friends who are just very enthusiastic. They don't live here. If they did, I'd want them to belong to this group too, but that is something that does not cost any money. It is not hard to do, and it's something that could be very easy, because some people just look on Twitter and they look up hashtag
Right.
Darien to get news about the town. So if you said for months beforehand, facts about the cemetery, facts about the ceremony, about the thing, when they look up the hashtag, it just comes up, and then it just sort of is in the mix of,
And you'll get the attention of all different ages.
right.
which
Well,
is
speaking of
fantastic.
different ages, I think it's a wonderful idea, and since your presence here skews the average
Yeah.
age of this commission
That's exactly what I was
downward,
thinking, is that would be.
I
a
would
great thing to
suggest
do.
that should be your bailiwick.
I would really like to do that.
I think.
You
that's
know what your first baby step could be? Get a hold, and I forget the name of the individual in the office who was responsible for our page on
Right.
the town website, but you can start by getting those things posted on the town website's page under monuments and
Yeah,
ceremonies.
that could be done. They could put a link up there.
Yeah.
The only thing I want you to be sure you're concerned about is when we put pictures of minors up, okay? And it is a public event,
Yeah.
I understand that, but if you they don't want them to be identified and stuff or anything like that as far as that goes. And there's some other rules and regulations that fit on that. You know, when we post some of our things, we get releases for kids, so we have to watch that.
Oh,
you
no,
know.
I
Yeah,
agree, and
yeah.
that's why I sort of said discreet, like for people who are living or not living, you know, like depending on how, I know with things, that's why I went, you know, I took a short video of the flags in the wind with the parade passing, because I just thought that was really beautiful. It was such a beautiful moment, and it wasn't specifically featuring anyone where those licensing issues
Yeah,
or
sure.
privacy things would come in, but just even to have like a fact a week or something like that, where people could expect it or see it coming, or sort of learn that's the kind of thing that this group
We
produces.
could do an add-on to our Monument of the Month, something.
Right, or you picture it, and, yeah.
It could be, I mean, you'd have to figure out when you want to do it. You could start it like 2 months before, or, and then it's fresh.
Mhm.
And then it might be something where we can send a link.
They've already done 21 monuments of the month.
Yeah,
We're
we're all done.
out of monuments. So.
Yeah. But I mean, so it might
That's a
be,
lot of
something- I think it's an area we
We
should
start over.
pursue in the fall when we get back together. I think we should think about in what way we could do that.
Yeah.
Now, any way you can get the word out about, first of all, your little talk beforehand, so that's known, and then some of the personalities and such that you have buried there. I think it'd be pretty neat. I mean,
We could probably put something out about Flag Day, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Right.
ahead
Right.
of time and get more
Yeah.
people that haven't been to it yet to.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
and I think, I mean, because there are people who have accounts and their whole account is just like, I know someone who just every day writes about a different person who was born that day. And it's just like 240 characters and says, oh, on this day, this person was born and they were a famous surgeon or a famous, pilot or something, has a link, and that's their contribution to social media for the day. And some people just follow that because they like that snippet of history that kind of gets them involved. And
Does anybody ever think about what we're doing as a group in the town for this town? And the idea crossed my mind because I wasn't born here. But there's an awful lot of pride for what's gone on from people that have lived in or were born in this town. For instance, Lucy's thing with the signs put up, and I'm thinking to myself, when people, newcomers are looking around, maybe we ought to somehow loop in the real estate folks and say, do you know what's going on in this town? What the townspeople have ginned up, because everybody here is a member of the town. And tells the story that nobody is going to tell as well as we can with the things that we're putting together. It's a job of work, I understand that, but Jesus,
Good point.
100 years ago when I moved in, or whenever I got here,
You saw George Washington go by. didn't you?
yes, I did. When he asked me
I'm
for a
feeling another
raise.
subcommittee coming along in a second now, so.
That is part of keeping up with
Yeah.
the times. I mean, really,
Yeah,
that is.
I mean,
something
We're in a
it's
different
worthwhile,
world
and
now.
it's applause for everybody that's here.
Well, you're making a good point, and my understanding is that each one of the real estate offices has a weekly coffee meeting with their agents,
Mm.
where we could be invited in for a brief
Yeah, they probably want some little tidbits about
Sure.
this.
snippet.
also to sort of add on to what you were saying, my husband and I were looking at houses like 15 years ago, and there's a house on Hollow Tree Ridge Road that had such a great kind of little book report written about it, that you didn't even see all the work it needed. It was a historical house,
Yeah,
and
it's on
they wrote about the secret cupboards, about how half the family was on one side of the Revolutionary War, the other half was on the British side. There were hiding spaces. There was actually a big tunnel in their basement, which kind of scared my husband. And but the story about the house, the history was really so fascinating that it almost didn't matter that if you were on roller skates and you let go on one side of the thing,
Sure.
you'd go right.
You could go to wherever.
Well, the whole house was tilted, but it was a pretty old house.
Let's,
But it was,
Swimming
it-
away.
but it was a great. Not. I'm just kidding about but it was a fascinating place brought to life by that history and.
Let's think about this in the fall, though, because but I do think that it would be an excellent thing to start to get social media involved in getting our message out.
And it costs nothing, too.
Because, and I say this as someone who is a total neophyte, okay? I don't have Twitter account, I don't have any of that stuff, or Instagram, but I know everybody else probably does, so. But there are people who, if you want to attract a certain, demographic at this point in time, you've got to use it. I mean, the political
Absolutely.
campaigns have proved that. All right, so
Absolutely.
this may be something that we may have to look into strongly in the fall. And I'm thinking for, after we get through our 9/11 meeting, 9/11 thing, we have, September 10th is our first meeting in the fall. We don't meet in the summer, of course, July and August. But the 10th is our meeting. We can start then. We could probably sow the seeds of it then, and then see what we want to, where we want to go with it. And and like with anything, as with anything, try not to bite off too much at first. What should we publicize? We could use, for instance, the Veterans Day, okay, for our goal when we start that, because it's in the fall. Veterans Day is November 11th,
You're gonna put another sign, maybe?
and another sign will be going up. So this is the kind of stuff that we like to hit. So I'm thinking that this could be something very, very positive for the commission.
Sounds to me like you just asked Loren to give us a report at our meeting on September 10th. I think that's what I just heard.
I think they probably did, yeah, because, and ways in which we can use it,
I
and
can
how
send-
you would employ it, okay?
I can
And-
send you a
and your-
link
and your
that's an
goal-
example of something that,
Yeah.
some links that are examples
Okay.
of things that I think are constructive
That's great.
and very,
That's your summer vacation project.
I'm looking forward to
And
it.
you've got time, so we'd appreciate that. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to now jump over to
Can I-
Lucy. Go
Can I
ahead.
do one
Yeah.
more thing
Mhm.
about
Sure.
the Veterans, Memorial Day, I was looking at Veterans.
Right.
Memorial Day, the flags that need to get put out, I think, and I'm volunteering myself to do this, we need to, set up here's how you do it, here's where they go, because I think they got all put into the Veterans Cemetery this year when we put them out, and now they're all gone. So
So they should be in the boxes that you collect, when you collected them, they should all.
we did not collect them, the state, so my understanding from years past, and maybe someone that
We didn't
can,
know that.
was that the state puts them out in the Veterans Cemetery and picks them up from the Veterans Cemetery.
But the state didn't put them out this year, though.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
they're gone now.
Okay.
So they came and they picked them up?
So
They
my
must have-
understanding
So we
from
need-
years past is that we do
Cheap
not put flags in the Veterans Cemetery. The state takes care of the Veterans Cemetery. They have flags, they put them, and then they come and they take them away.
That was my
And our
understanding, too.
responsibility is to
Right.
put flags throughout the rest of Spring Grove
That's correct.
Cemetery.
Right.
Okay, but I could have sworn that, because I've done it so many years with my uncle, that we've always put them out on the
Yeah,
veterans.
and pick them up.
It's
We got
it's
the post-
almost
the Boy
always,
Scouts.
it's almost always been done by the scouts.
Yes.
The state drops them off at
Yeah.
the police station, and one of the challenges, they never let us know exactly when they're coming in.
So, but then the state comes and picks them all up?
No, and
No.
historically, the Cub Scouts,
Stop.
Yes.
The state comes and puts them all out in the Veterans Cemetery and picks them all up from the Veterans Cemetery. The Boy Scouts put them out throughout the rest of Spring Grove Cemetery to all of the veterans' tombstones, and then the Girl Scouts have gone and picked them all up from Spring Grove Cemetery.
Well, then,
The Veterans Cemetery
my
was
question
separate.
is, and when we were all down there dropping the flags all off, there were flags that were put up, but only half of them were put up in the veterans. Remember, we were making a comment, how come there's some up, but there were, I would say, 3/4 of the veterans section, there were no flags.
Maybe they hadn't finished, I don't know.
I don't
the
think they
answer
sent
to that.
enough flags down, or I don't think they realize, those flags that we have stored were ours.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah,
are ours from
right.
Spring Grove Cemetery,
Yeah.
not for the Veterans
Yeah.
Cemetery.
And they
Right.
took them too?
They're gone. I
We
don't
were
know who took
surprised
them.
that-
We were surprised they were up.
They were
Yeah.
gone.
We drove by
Yeah,
and
when
said,
we were
Wow.
there, yeah,
They're
that
not
we
even
were
signing
So
the
surprised.
flag.
that's why
there,
I
no.
think we need to get back to
Take it
ground
back.
truth. I don't have the contact at the state.
I don't either, but I'll have one tomorrow. I know, I'll call Tammy.
we have the contact.
Yeah, we'll talk to Tammy tomorrow.
So let's just iron it out, because when I talked to Grant and he said that they had put them in the Veterans Cemetery, I was surprised, because that was not ever.
Do you have her number?
We never picked
I
up
have it.
flags from the Veterans Cemetery. I was always told that, no, we just take care of Spring Grove Cemetery.
Well,
Okay, so we'll call the head of community
for 3 years,
affairs.
I've been involved,
Yeah.
we've always put it, the scouts.
Yeah.
Prior to
Two-
Memorial Day.
2 years ago, I know that we
Yeah.
put them in the Spring Grove Veterans Cemetery.
I remember doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
well, I
know
have a
that
picture of
I've
Chick
personally
putting
been
them-
involved in putting them
Yeah.
in several years.
Chick
So-
and I for years.
So
Yeah.
then I
Went
can
to
tell
pick up
you
or put
from
them
the Girl
down.
Scout picking the flags up,
Yeah.
And then we
never,
got the Boy
ever
Scouts.
seen
Oh,
or
okay.
touched
So
the
the two of
flag
you
in the
put it on?
veterans,
Oh my
veterans
God.
part of the
Okay.
cemetery because they're not
I'm
any there.
92 now.
Yeah.
No.
So I don't know what
60.
We have to
happens.
square that away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then
No,
they're
the
taking
The
most
state
of ours.
hasn't put them in the
Because if we're
veterans
putting out
area
our
for the
flags,
last 3
then the
years
state's
because the
picking up
scouts,
ours.
including
Yes.
some of us here, did it.
We thought they were.
So there's something
Yeah.
weird going on with the
They didn't
flags.
send down
And
any
4
flags. Those
years
flags
ago,
had
we
were all
picked
ours.
up all the
No, I
flags in
understand
the
that there were
Veterans
flags
Cemetery
right.
because they were in my garage
Yes,
for
I
the
remember
year.
that too.
And before that,
There
it
were
was in
flags
Cooper.
in the
Right.
police station,
Right.
right?
And before that,
Yes.
it was downstairs in this building.
And they're.
Yes, there
should be
were,
downstairs
and we
there
didn't
now,
quite
but they're
know
not, right?
There's a
what,
lot.
you know,
Who
has
why
access
or
to the
anything
room?
else. And, in
has
fact,
access
Grant
to the
had
room?
mentioned
Dave.
that, he said, well, I'll get in touch
We do.
from
Yes,
now
we
on.
do.
But
For
for
the
years,
downstairs.
because even we were standing there and half the flags
Yeah,
were already put up,
Okay.
but not a lot of
So
them.
here's what we're gonna do. Between the two of us, we will contact the state, okay? We will get our flags back, all right? That's number one. Then we will clarify with them that who's gonna put them in the Veterans Cemetery? Because this year, they were implying that we had to put them in. And I said, you know, and I said, well, where's the flags? And they said, oh, there's some here, there's a few here at the police station. I said, what's her name, that downstairs, the person who called, and from the police station. I said, phew, I don't know about that, you know, so we had our flags. Okay, so we'll have to clarify this, so that, between us, we'll get this done.
Yep.
All right, we'll call Tammy up there at the VA, and we'll talk to her and see what the story is.
We were surprised they were gone, they were picked up so quickly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
said, you guys didn't go
So,
out there and get 'em, you know.
They
enlighten me, my memory is that historically, when the Girl Scouts picked them up, that they stayed there through Flag Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did.
And
They did.
then they were
That's why we were
taken out.
surprised.
Yeah.
Through the rest of the cemetery, I
Okay.
never have any control over the veteran cemetery.
Right.
Because they come and take them when they take them.
Okay.
So, right, we'll be picking them up next Wednesday.
They
And I'm just thinking with the
They were really early.
fiscal challenges of the state, I wonder why the state would mind if volunteers
They
did the
probably
job as opposed to sending paid
Well,
state employees
it isn't a
down.
problem, that isn't a problem. The problem is they have to know what,
Yeah.
we have to know what they want done.
Yeah.
Do they want us to do it, or are they gonna do it?
Yeah.
Normally, you know, years ago, I'd look and boom, they'd be in the veteran
Right.
cemetery.
They'd all be
Yeah.
there.
You know, they'd all be there. They'd send somebody down with the boxes full of them, and they put them out themselves.
Yes.
We used to do the rest of Spring Grove in the public section, or the private section of Spring Grove. And then all of a sudden, there's gonna be confusion here about what was going on. So we're gonna square that
Because
away.
last year that they did not put any up, we
Right.
put them all
Yeah, I
up.
remember that.
We did
I
all of
remember that,
them.
because I was there.
But it's
Okay, I remember, it, yeah.
just a possibility, maybe we beat them to it, and they got there and they scratched their head and said,
Well, but you
How are
know,
their flags there?
but see,
But why didn't they say
what
something?
makes it odd is that if they were historically charged with putting the flags up, why would they pay employees to drive them down to the police station, leave them there, go back up to Hartford,
You're
and then drive down
asking too
another
many
day to
questions.
put them in
We
the
don't
ground?
know.
I mean, just,
Okay.
it-
too many questions.
When we got the communication from the police department that there were some flags there, they said some guy named Ed from the VFW came down. Well, that wasn't who, it was a guy
Yeah,
named
so-
Ed from the VA.
Yeah, the VA.
And if there was only one person down here, then he wasn't going out there and putting out 2,190
Right.
flags.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
so they didn't do something right. We'll square this away. Let me move on to the veteran sign placement ceremony, which was awesome.
Yes.
We couldn't have asked for a nicer day.
No.
And I just realized on my way here, since I've seen reports written about past things, maybe I was supposed to write something up
No.
about that?
No.
Okay,
No.
good. So we had about 100 people came. That's what the police told me, because they counted to see. We had an amazing police presence. That was really
Really,
incredible.
Gotta be 10 guys
You know,
there.
our police have really been there for us,
Yes.
you know? And posing for pictures with
Including the
Chick
chief.
and, Yeah, the chief, it was just fantastic. And we had a very blustery day. The sign wasn't where we originally wanted it, and it turned out to be the best thing ever, you know? Right there on the corner where Chick was born. And
Amazing.
And we covered the sign. We were there at 10:30 working on it. We got it all hooked up, and then we stood back to look at our great work. We took the ladder away. Everything was great, and then the wind gust came and went like, "Ooh!" And the cover.
Right.
Unveiled
So
it for you.
the neighbor who lives in the house on the street corner, he said, "I've got a ladder." He went out, and then he was so excited to have been part of it all too. So that was really nice.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Mr. Chase, I think his name was. So that was fantastic, and the participation of the selectmen, and the poem that my student wrote, and Don's
Don Scrivener.
his speech was just fantastic, and it was just 18 minutes long, exactly what we were hoping for, under 20 minutes.
It's perfect.
Around
And
15.
Phil, and he was thrilled.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Chick was
Oh,
thrilled. I
he
mean, I
was,
can
he
tell you,
was,
he
in- I mean,
beaming.
you should have seen him back at the house. Oh, my God, he was
I'm cracking up.
just.
I'm watching the crowd come up the street to the thing.
Yeah, I know.
And he's in the front, and he's walking from his house. Okay, no problem. Okay, I got my cane, I gotta do my thing.
And that day was designated Chick Scrivener Day.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I said to
Right.
everybody,
Right.
enjoy Chick
First
Scrivener Day.
selectman was there, she
Yeah.
designated, it was
He
great.
did such a great job. Anyway, I could not be more pleased with.
Oh, thank you so much for your
everyone's
hard work.
support.
Yay, Lucy.
The entire the whole committee here. And you've got more names now
We
that
do,
you're gonna
we
go
have,
over?
we have 2 more applications,
All right.
and, we have a really strong one for Veterans Day that I think would.
And you can meet, and let us know what's
Okay.
going on whenever you get them done.
Oh, yeah,
and all
just
that.
for clarification, because we don't want to run into delivery issues with signs, et cetera. Our understanding on our subcommittee is that the subcommittee actually designates the honoree,
Right,
and it's just a formal notification to this commission.
right.
Because what we'd like to do is make the decision well before our
Sure.
September 10th meeting, so we don't have any issues with delivery of signs. So we will meet over the summer.
Mhm.
We will advise you when
Right.
we reach our decision, but we'll avoid any glitches.
Right, we're not gonna micromanage the committee.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right off the bat. So, I mean.
You liked our good work.
You're-
That's
I
all
like
turned
it,
out.
right, yeah.
Proven
And-
yourself to be trustworthy.
And I will just,
Thank you.
Yeah.
So far, no one did, and I think you did a fantastic job.
Yay!
I'm trying to
I know
keep,
how hard it is
I'm trying to
because
keep all the
I'm
ducks in a
home with
row,
it.
folks. That's all I'm doing. And it's tough. You're juggling a lot of different things. 'Cause people are coming at me with all this different stuff for different committees now and everything, and I'm like, okay, let me take a breath and figure out what you're talking about. All right, yeah, okay, I got it. So in addition to this, but thank you.
Yes, because you lead, but you also empower everyone.
Well,
to
my
get
goal
things done.
is to, again, I don't want to be repetitive, but I will be. I don't want to micromanage your committees and stuff. Your committees, we have people on the committees that
We're
are
wrong.
oversight people from,
Imagine
that are oversight people from this commission. So if there's something amiss or something, or if there's something that should be added, then they come back and they tell us, and we know about it. So I think we have a good communication system going here. The possibility of adding a 5th member to your group is there. If you'd like to add somebody to it, I do have a volunteer name from the
We've already
VFW
decided that's
that-
going to happen.
Yeah, all right. So,
I'll talk to you about it later.
so anyway, if, that can happen at any point. It doesn't require any designation from this commission or anything like that. But if you have somebody that you'd like to add to the commission, you bring the name up to me and just let me know what you've decided, and we'll move on from there. So talk among
Who pays
yourselves.
for the
Before I foist anybody on you, I would never do that.
Additional one.
Sign.
Talk among yourselves and you figure out who you want to add, if you want to.
What was your question?
Who pays for the next sign?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Well, I know a donor who would like to contribute, and have you had somebody else say that?
There might be, well, I can tell you that you should contact the Masonic Club at Darien, okay, because I have them interested in it. They do meet once a month at least, and you know who the leader is, okay? So you can go back and forth with them, and they may accommodate you. The person who's in charge of all our community affairs there is Mark Lindsay, He's one of the guys that does a lot of work with the cemeteries and stuff and everything else. He also did the chip thing down at the beach when they had the June 8th, the Weed Beach Festival this year. We got that all involved, where the kids were getting the kits and all that stuff for identification. This is what they do. It's an outreach thing to the community and their churches, so they may be willing to do something, all right? They just try to narrow down your numbers or
They
whatever you
also
have.
might have a veteran in mind.
Right, they also might have a veteran in mind.
So
so you might
the
wanna
wrinkle,
talk with
the
them.
wrinkle with the cost, of course, is that we don't know until basically the week of
Whether the police are gonna.
how many police are willing to donate their time
Right.
versus charge for the time. So
But-
that's,
But you know what was brought up, and Lucy, you brought it up, that, because on Fairfield Avenue, that as long as the signs were put up on one side, no parking, the police said that they did not have to come.
Okay, okay. Well, that's good, so we'll just keep that in mind when we look for the placement of the next one. But I think that you've got someone that you've got in mind. I can tell you right off the bat that, you know, you can contact, I would contact the Masonic Club of Darien, and ask them, because they do a lot of stuff in the community now.
I've actually had correspondence
Right, with
back and
David.
forth.
Okay.
And
with
if
them, yeah.
anyone is listening to this
And if
recording and would
anybody
like
else
to
or any
contribute.
business that wants to
That'd be great.
contribute to this veteran sign placement fund and sponsor a sign, be my guest. We do not put anything on the signs that says that it's sponsored by that group, but you will get mentioned in the press, and you will get mentioned in this meeting on TV, on this wonderful TV 79. So there will be some benefit to you, but it's also, you'll feel good about it, because it's a wonderful thing to have go forward in this town. I think it's just one more thing that makes this town great.
So please contact the Monuments and Ceremonies.
Right, so please contact Monuments and Ceremonies. You can do that through the Selectman's office. They'll get a message to me. Anything else on veteran sign placement? Otherwise, thank you all that
Thank you.
worked on it.
That was
Fantastic.
great.
Great thing for our town. 2020 committee report. We have Alan Miller, the chairman of the 2020 committee here. Anything quickly you want to run by us?
We just got our logo out. We had a ceremony here with the 3 high school kids. We actually designed the logo. Jamie was here, and all the members of the subcommittee. It was written up a week or 2 ago
You
in
have
the
a
press.
copy?
I'm sorry?
Do you have it with you?
No, I don't. I'm
I can
sorry.
email it to you.
Sorry.
That's
It looks
okay.
like up
But it was in the
It
paper.
looks,
I
it
didn't
was in
see
the
it.
paper.
Yes.
It's
That's
very good.
awesome.
So now that that's out there, we're gonna go to
I'll look it up.
a lot of people in the, commercial people, looking for sponsorships. June 12th is our official anniversary day. We're gonna have it at Slauson Cemetery on Hanson Street.
That's 2020, June
And you're
12th.
talking about June 12th, a year from now.
Yes.
Yeah. Not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Yeah, don't show up
Yeah.
tomorrow.
There's 2 other ceremonies. We're gonna do one before and one afterwards. We're planning those and planning the venues, so I don't want to give out the proposed dates or the venues until we absolutely have the venues in place.
Okay.
So that's good.
Do you have the time for the June 12th one?
12 o'clock, tentatively at 12 o'clock, 12 noon.
Subject to change, depending upon all kinds of things.
Yes,
Wasn't it?
right.
So I'm up until 11:59
A
to
year
get
and 1
ready.
day from,
Thank you, Alan. Is there anything else
Yes.
that you need us for?
So Alan,
Yeah.
in conversation with Damian Andrews, who was my contact with the Darien Athletic Foundation who broadcast the parade,
right?
they're very interested in getting together with you to talk about what potential there is to broadcast certain events again.
Okay, great.
So I'll be meeting with Damian, and I will keep you apprised of what happens. But if there's,
Okay,
like you've already given me one, I can start with
Yes,
Alan
right.
on this one, with
Absolutely.
Damian on this one.
Okay,
But, you know, this,
That'd be
I
great.
just thought that worked so well at the parade. He and I
Yes,
were
we'd love to
talking about
have-
what else could we
absolutely.
do.
yep.
Beautiful.
By the way,
Um,
he's going to be, I'm talking to him about
Yeah.
Flag Day also, so.
Okay, so the 2020, one of the occasions for, or one of the places or venues that might be considered would be the burial site of Thaddeus Bell and his wife and his family, and that's up in Slauson Cemetery, which is off Hanson Road. We were there cleaning up this last weekend with the Masons and the DAR and members of this commission, and you'll see probably in the papers, there's some downstairs in the display case, pictures of who worked on it. It was fantastic. We got a lot of work done. But we did notice that there were a couple of stones that needed to be repaired and replaced. We just happen to have one of the Masonic brothers who also is does this work. He does repair the stones and such. And he repaired at least 2, 3 that I know of while we were there. We cleaned up a whole bunch of them with a solution called D2, which is very expensive, but it is perfect and it does not eat away at the stones. He reset at least 2 stones on the weekend. It was fantastic. His name is Andrew Malillo. And we have a situation in which the one stone for Thaddeus Bell's spouse, is broken off and in pieces. It's been that way for a little while, and we have to remedy that situation. And I've mentioned to Alan already one company that does do that. The other solution you might have is to use perhaps Andrew Malillo if he feels that he has the expertise to do it. So you're going to probably have to. What I would suggest is that come through the 2020 committee and then back to the cemetery committee and then back to us.
Okay.
Because you'll probably have to get funding to do that. The town has to, I mean, it is the founding father's wife, so we have to do something about that. So.
And it's really broken and a mess.
Yeah, the bottom part of it is broken off and
Yeah, I
everything
saw
else.
the
It is
picture of
worn.
that in the email.
So,
that you
and we'd
That's
like to
why I
keep the
put it
original
in.
stone as much as possible. We'd like to use as much of the original stone as possible.
Absolutely,
We don't
yeah.
replace the stones. We don't. That's, I mean, it's not the real thing. We want to keep that. So even though it's been broken off pretty well, I think it can be repaired. I'm not a professional at it. We've looked at it, all of us, and we decided that you should start looking into someone who will
Absolutely,
give
we'll
you
do that.
some numbers.
Okay.
What's his name? Up at Connecticut Stone is another guy that does it. What's his name? Foley, Dick Foley up there, I believe, is another guy that does it. But I have some names for you that I can give you, and you just, you can see who you think might be able to do it.
Okay, and get an
but,
estimate from them.
Andrew
Anyway.
can do it.
Are all the pieces there? I mean,
He was
Oh,
it's broken?
Saturday.
They're not all
Okay.
there.
It's not all
They're
there.
not all
Okay,
there.
there's something part of it
Most of
missing.
them are there, but the beauty of it is,
Okay,
if there's
great.
any beauty in this, it's broken at the base.
Okay.
Okay, so the base can be re-cemented in and stuff and everything else.
But the stone's
Theoretically, you could do a couple of different things, shorten it, whatever, but it's okay to be worked on. We just want to make sure that it's in good shape for year 2020.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
all that stuff. So we're taking a preemptive strike against this here. Cemetery committee, you gave us a real quick one here. You want to go over that real quickly? Just go over it. I mean, I didn't print it up for everybody, but
Oh,
if you
yeah,
want,
yeah, that's fine.
you can just quickly zip through that. if you'd
Spring,
like.
we've been going, we did, as Dave has already mentioned to the committee, we did not unfortunately get money going forward from the budget.
Right.
So we are depending on the kindness of strangers going forward. So we do thank you for the money the Monuments and Ceremonies Commission did give to us. So as a result, we were able to do our spring cleanings at the majority of the cemeteries we've been working on. So we thank you
I think it's
because we wouldn't
important
have.
to note, so we're taped, that we asked for money and got nothing for the cemeteries for next year. We were told to access the Wilson Fund at Leeds, which I hope we can, which
Yeah.
is $9,100.
Yeah.
But from the town, we got absolutely nothing.
Right,
So-
so if,
So
we
it's
have
noted.
submitted a bill already that was above what you all had given us.
Right.
And we were told we could access it to pay the balance of it. So, I think that Sharon especially is very good at making sure that she gets the most for her money and everything. So, anyway, we did it when I forgot. And she took Miss Stevenson around on a field trip to show her what we've been accomplishing.
That was
Great.
Yeah,
Great,
and,
that's good.
so she was very impressed and I think surprised, but she might not have really honed in before on what we'd been doing. So we were very pleased that she did that. Unfortunately, real quickly, that we found that Weed number 2 graveyard, which is off Weed's Landing, which took 3 days of massive cleanup and a large part of our budget, which is why we didn't have any after December. The neighbors are dumping again.
Oh my
So it's very unsettling to us after all of that work. We wrote a letter, very nice letter, but wrote a letter to ask them please not to do that.
Right.
We've gone back 2 and 3 times and they're still dumping.
What are they
Is
putting
it
there?
the restaurant?
Grass
or the
clippings.
other neighborhood?
No, this is
Everything
over on
from the
Weeds
garage.
Landing
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. What their rationale is that nobody has been in that cemetery for 40 or 50 years and the weeds were out of control. They're not wrong, but their solution was to put their own yard debris and clippings to tamp down. But they didn't really do that in the whole cemetery. There's just one particular area that they've been doing
Right.
it on, doing. And anytime a tree fell, somebody might have cut it up, but then they just left everything. So there's all kinds of, you know, the bees, the nasty things that make their home in fallen logs. So there's infestations of things like that, because
Well,
things
since
weren't
it's
taken
a
away.
private cemetery, wouldn't they be fined for doing that?
If they were caught, theoretically,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, the point of law is basically that you're not allowed to dump in a cemetery. And whether you're dumping to prevent something or whatever, it really doesn't matter. It's illegal to do so.
Right.
You can't dump in a cemetery there. I mean, and this is something that's happened in a couple of the cemeteries that we worked in. We found out that people have been using it as their own depository for yard waste and stuff. And it's not acceptable. So anybody who's listening and thinks this is acceptable, it's not.
I should point out that a dump sticker is $45 for the year, and if you're a senior citizen, they're free, so.
Free.
Good
Right.
point.
How hard
Very
is
good
it,
point.
how hard is it to bring grass to the dump?
Just
We
have to
actually
make the
had
effort.
somebody gardening in one of,
Yes.
We did. We
Yeah,
had
yeah.
somebody gardening at one point on the graves of paupers.
Yes.
So
The pauper's graves in the bottom
I
right.
think people, at this point, we're 3 years into it, and I think they recognize that we're going around, and it's just unsettling for people when they're kind of used to having it as their own little whatever, but.
You know, you mentioned that you took Jamie on a field trip, and I was wondering about our ability to organize, whether it's a bike tour for younger people, or whether we could talk to the town or At Home in Darien and Gallivant about borrowing a bus one day and running a cemetery tour
That would be a great
for,
idea. Yeah.
first of all, for town officials, and secondly, for any residents who would be interested.
Yeah.
Just a thought, for
Do you think
down the road.
landscapers dumped, or was the,
It's probably the landscapers
Neighbors.
and the neighbors.
I mean, was it a big amount, or how many yards? One?
Like half this table,
Oh.
Can't
and
do that.
bushes that have been like taken out that died, so.
Oh.
Well, hopefully.
That's a very good idea.
Hopefully this
Yeah.
stops soon.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it
because
will.
the next step would be to go further,
Semi-can.
with what the town can do with legal recourse.
So it's that.
I just want to quickly go through some of the other stuff you guys did here. The cemetery committee did participate in the Memorial Day Parade by helping the Good Wives. They've also planted flowers down on the Roten River graveyard. They put flags out for Memorial Day at several of the cemeteries, the Roten River, Leeds, Waterbury, Slauson, the Thaddeus Bell, and the Medal of Honor winner David Schofield, awardee. And by the way, it's the Medal of Honor, for anybody listening. It's not a Congressional Medal of Honor, but it is a Medal of Honor. The Congressional is just a colloquialism that people have used, but it is a Medal of Honor. It is given in the name of Congress, but it's.
And he was clean this weekend too, besides,
Yes.
yeah.
And he was clean this week. They installed the cemetery committee display in the front hall display case, which is really neat. Everybody take a look there. The Earth Day event with Masonic Club at Darien and Ivanhoe Lodge and the DAR was really good. And they're going to be attending Flag Day on June 14th. Now, which brings me to anything else in the cemeteries?
No, said it
Okay,
all,
which
thank
brings
you.
me to, trying to be efficient here, the Flag Day ceremony. Flag Day ceremony will be 4:30. It'll be in front of the Town Hall and Veterans Circle. Terry, you had indicated to me that it's a 5x8 flag,
Yes.
and that the Department of Public Works was going to give us a new one?
Department of Public Works has already, thank you to Ed
Yes.
Gentile and Cindy and the crew. They've already given us the new flag.
You
I
have
have
it?
it in my
Oh, great,
garage,
that's fine.
so we're all set.
All right, so the Flag Day ceremony, Veterans Memorial Circles, that will be this Friday. The September 11th ceremony will be at 8:30 a.m. approximately.
Oh,
Monument.
before you, Kevin,
I'm
you are
gonna go back.
inviting the public
Yeah,
Friday.
Yeah, I can do that. At the monument behind
It's
Middlesex
been in
School, that's for the
newspaper a
future.
few times.
The public is invited to the Flag Day ceremony. The Flag Day ceremony is a very simple ceremony. It's where we retire a symbolic flag, and then we take all the flags that have been collected from the places that were collection points in town. There's 3 of them. All right, the Town Hall is one, the Darien Library is another, and the VFW is another. I'll pick those up during the day on Friday. We bring them to the, ceremony, but not, it'll be in my car. But we have the one that we retire from in front of the Town Hall. We then replace it. It's a very simple ceremony. I will send you all you all copies of it electronically. It's like 6 pages, but it's not a big deal. There's an introductory piece. We do read the I Am Your Flag, and I Am Your Flag is a poem that was put out, and it's not really attributed to anybody at this point. And we will read I Am Your Flag. There's usually 6 or 7 readers on this. I may consolidate this, in which case, if I know you're coming, I'll assign you 2 or 3 of these little strands. They're not that big, all right? To do, after we've read that poem, we then will have a detail from the VFW, lower the flag that is up there, fold that flag, and as we fold that flag, there's a flag folding ceremony that we read, and there are 13 folds when you fold the flag. And each one has a little comment that's made. For instance, the second one says, fold 2, the 50 stars represent our 50 United States of America. A word to everyone out there who might think there's a standard form for doing this. There is none. There is no standard Flag Day ceremony anywhere. We use one that's been accepted and used by many places over the years. There is one floating around the internet now that's been going out for sort of viral, that's been out for many years, all right? If you look at it and you start reading right through it, you think you should be going to a church or a temple very soon because it's very religious as it goes all the way through. This was obviously somebody else's bent on a Flag Day ceremony, folding ceremony. They give different meanings to every fold. We don't use that one because obviously there's an exclusion clause, archaic, which is in our of freedom of speech and such and everything else true, but you have to have a separation of church and state, so we can't use that one. But we use the one we use is very nice, it's very good. It has been used by the Air Force and a couple of other groups. So we will read that, we will fold the flag, and then we will retire the flags, and the flags will be disposed of properly, the flags will be disposed of properly by incineration, which is the proper way to do that, and we'll take care of that in the week after. So there shouldn't be any problem doing this. The weather should be good. We've heard the weather's going to be nice. I look forward to having as many of you attend as possible. How many people know they can be here? All right, well, that's great, because the more we have from our group, the better. The town is invited. Please come to our June 14th Flag Day ceremony, all right? We really need you to come and help us out and participate. It's a wonderful thing. Bring your children. If it's 4:30, they will be out of school. If they're not going to something else and they have time to spare, bring them with you. It's the Veterans Circle, which this commission put into existence back in 2006. Is a beautiful place to have this Flag Day ceremony, and it's a very poignant little short, but to the point ceremony that we enjoy doing every year for the town. And then the next thing we have after that would be, of course, our meeting on September 10th, and then we have the 9/11 ceremony behind the Middlesex Middle School at that monument, which also went through all of the procedures that had to be gone through in order to be made a monument in this town by coming through this commission.
I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
When my classroom was on that side of the building, I could see it happening out there, and I'm just wondering, is that a public event?
It's a public event.
Would there be any reason why I couldn't bring my students out?
No,
Well,
we invited
this,
them.
We invited
last year.
We had this,
They were
we invited, we spoke to your principal and
They used to
invited them
come.
last year. I have the emails.
And
Okay.
did we come out?
No.
No,
No.
but you had she was new,
She
it was
was
a new
new.
principal, so.
Not last year.
No?
I don't know. All I know is that I invited, and my suggestion was, even if and I understand, I've been a teacher for 35 years, I get it, I mean, about your class periods and all that. But my thought was, the reason it was put behind the school, in the first place, by Josh Doying, was so that people could have access to it, and so the school would have access to it, so the kids wouldn't forget, and they'd know what it's all about. I personally feel I would love to have the children out there. We don't do a very long ceremony. We do a very simple ceremony. We're not like Westport or stuff where they read all the names and stuff. We don't do that. But they can at least be there.
I teach American history,
Right.
so it fits very well for me to want to bring my team out, and I could do that. So we might only have 89 eighth graders, but that would be nice.
That would be fine. And my suggestion, and Terry and I suggested that you could take out maybe a grade level one year, and maybe the next year another grade level, maybe next year another grade level, rotate them around, or
Well,
maybe
we
just
first
teachers
put
who
it
are free, or whatever that, or a class that wants to
All
come.
the children came.
The first few years we did it, they all came.
They have reduced the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, but we'd appreciate it, and we would love to have the young children there.
It is kind of a thing about forgetting, because I don't have students anymore that were alive
That's right.
at 9/11.
That's why he wanted it there. He said,
Was this an Eagle Scout project?
no,
No.
No, this
No,
was
it was-
something he decided he
he
wanted to
decided he
do.
wanted to do, and he raised the money.
Mother took money,
His mother's there every year,
yeah.
and, because I always give her a rose, and she,
She was sick last
he
year.
gave money,
Last year.
extra money for it.
She wasn't there last year.
No,
What,
she
I
was
saw,
sick.
noticed that one of the trees got cut down many years ago or broke.
But he,
And we replaced it because he
it
left.
died, I think, and basically, he left money to endow it so that if something went wrong, that
So
you
we
could replace the
replaced
tree,
it
and
with
we used that
money
money to
he raised.
replace that tree.
That's fantastic, because those trees are so healthy right now. It looks amazing.
I think one got hit by like a machine or something like
I
that,
don't
but
know.
whatever it died, and so we had the money, but we had the money, and this is the other thing with monuments in this town. When you propose a monument in the town of Darien, you can't just go to any old group and propose it and decide to plant it someplace in town. Monuments and Ceremonies doesn't just put on the parade and the 9/11 ceremony and the Veterans Day ceremony and so forth. We are also in charge of the monuments and memorials that are in the town. So if you want to set up something, a monument or a memorial in the town, you want to put a plaque on it, you want to put a plate next to something or whatever that says in memory of or in honor of, that falls under our purview. You're supposed to propose that to our group, to this group. This group will then look at it, and we did this with the Fireman's Monument down there, and we had a lot of input into that. We did it with the 9/11 Monument. All these things went through proper channels. The Gene Coyle plaque that's in this building right down here, because one of our rulings and everything else that people don't quite understand is that we have a guideline that says that no one should be memorialized until he's been dead a year. And Gene Coyle Group had to wait, they waited a year before they put it in. But during that time, we tweaked it and got it down to where it was really nice. The same thing with the Fireman's Monument. The Fireman's Monument, when that was first proposed, we looked at it in this particular commission, looked at that and said, there's a couple of sharp edges here down low, and there's a couple of things here. Could you modify this monument so that it's a little bit safer for anybody with young children that are walking by and stuff? They did that. That's one of the reasons why we're here. We're here to make these kind of
Same
calls.
with the DAR one that we put out here. Well, all of those.
Right. The DAR one that was put out here recently, and all the other ones that were in there, they all went through this commission. So there's a proper way to do things, and there's not. So if you have a group in town and you'd like to propose putting up a monument or a memorial or a bench or a tree or whatever it happens to be and all that stuff, and it's going to be dedicated to someone, living or dead, okay, you really have to bring it up and propose it to this commission. That's the way it's supposed to be done. We have guidelines that were written up many years ago by Phil Morehouse, who was our chairman at that point, and he pretty much crossed every T and dotted every I and told you what you had to do. So that's just how it's supposed to be done. So I'm going to see everybody on Flag Day who raised their hand, which is great, and anybody else who can come. Please, everybody in town, come to Flag Day, 4:30. I would like you guys to get here a little earlier, maybe 4 o'clock or thereabouts, so we can get our ducks in a row. There's nothing really that has to be brought to this except for we're getting a new flag. Terry has it. We retire the old flag. Terry and I or somebody will be meeting with or talking to the guys from the VFW. They have their meeting tomorrow night, and we will make sure that we have an honor guard from the VFW that will fold the flag for us. They've done it every year. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. And there we go. And that's it.
I bought that sound system for the ceremony that we had last week or whatever, so I could bring that if you wanted music for any reason.
We don't really do it. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. I will give a little bit of a history of Flag Day and stuff. Flag Day is an interesting history. The only state that requires it's an actual holiday for the state is Pennsylvania. It's the only state that is an actual state holiday. Pennsylvania.
That's
Nobody
right.
knows that. The origins of the origin of Flag Day is varied because there were a couple different people who were instrumental in different states in bringing it up, and then eventually it got pushed forward and was made officially Flag Day federally. But as far as states, the only one that really mandates it is Pennsylvania. But we do it every year anyway. It's a good thing to do. Any questions, anybody? Anything else to bring before the commission before we close? I will ask for someone to give me a
Bello.
Carabello.
bill, okay? Raleigh,
I
second by Sharon.
did the Carabello.
Any discussion?
I'm dying to do that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Anybody want to stay here on it?
Run out, get somebody to get it from us?
Yeah, here's what we want to do. So we're